So if Roe v. Wade is overturned, is the pro-life movement finished? Well, we have elderly considered post-persons. We have human embryos considered pre-persons. Severely disabled called non-persons. Human-animal hybrids called unpersons. We'll go into that more in a minute. Eugenics is called the good birth. Assisted suicide and euthanasia is called good death. At the 2005 National Right to Life Convention, Nigel Cameron said 2 terms will come to dominate public policy in the 21st century: transhumanism and eugenics. Are y'all familiar with those terms? No, okay. Transhumanism is the use of new sciences and technologies to enhance human mental and physical abilities and creating a race so enhanced they're no longer called human, but post-human. And you can actually Google H+ or Homo perfectus. You can go to Barnes & Noble and get magazines written about that. Ectogenesis is an artificial womb, and this is technology that they're working on right now so that they can create life and develop human body parts outside the womb. Transgenetics, in the UK, they had cow eggs. They took out the genetic material for the cows, put in human genetic material, but they weren't considered persons. So then they can experiment on them and destroy or use as they wish because they're not considered persons. Goat and sheep genes have been crossed, creating Jeep. Hairless mice have already been used to grow human ears. Fluorescent pigs have been created through crossing their genes with jellyfish. We've actually created glow-in-the-dark humans, where they took the genetic material of, the submarine animals that glow in the dark, and they're not considered a person under the present regulations. So that's kind of scary, especially when they're doing things like this. It's like, why would you do that? And this is a headless mouse that's been created. This was actually used in The Island. Are y'all familiar with that at all?
I've seen.
Have you? It's got a movie where they're in like an institution. Everybody's wearing white, and once in a while a card is drawn, and they get to go to the island, and they get all excited, and they pack their stuff, and they dash off. Well, you find out later in the movie, they are the cloned people. Someone who's really rich has, done whatever they needed to financially, and these people are just waiting for these people outside to need their body parts. It's wild. It's wild. And so this clip right here was taken from that movie. Okay, we're actually making designer babies and trying to create a perfect race. And it says only high quality embryos are selected for cryopreservation, since poor quality embryos seldom survive the freezing and thawing process. Well, what do they really mean when they say embryos? If you believe that life starts at the moment of conception, the moment of biological beginning, what they're actually saying is only high quality children are selected for cryopreservation, since poor quality children seldom survive the freezing and thawing processes. And so they were doing an interview with a German transhumanist, and they don't allow that stuff in Germany because of what happened with the Holocaust. They realize what you have to keep the standards in that. 98% of it's fantastic. It's very helpful. It's just 2% is kind of like a cross between Nazi Germany and Frankenstein. So, you have to have the ethics in there. So, Nigel Cameron said in the 20th century, it was enough that we were pro-life. In the 21st century, you must be diligent to also be pro-human. Stem cell research. Now, this I think is really fascinating. Embryonic stem cell research destroys a human life. Adult stem cell research does not require destruction of human cells. Adult stem cell research has cured over 73 diseases, and the embryonic has not cured any. So why have it? Why destroy life if we don't need to? Cloning is the taking of a nucleus and replacing it with the genetic makeup of a person, basically for two reasons: for reproductive and for research. The research cloning involves deliberate creation of human life for the purposes of killing it to use it for research. Now, RU46, do y'all know what that is? The morning after pill. Have you ever talked to anybody who's taken it? The only people that I've talked to that have had it thought they were going to die. And when they went to the doctor, they were just so blasé and said, well, those are the side effects. They literally thought they were going to die. And it's what they take. By the time they know they're pregnant and they can take it, it's not to prevent the pregnancy, it's to end it, okay? To end the life. And it's a very high dose steroid, and 13 women documented have died. This is kind of an old presentation, so there's probably more, but there's probably way more that it's just not documented, because usually when they come to the hospital after an abortion, they don't say it's related to an abortion, so it could be way higher than that. But any drug that ends a human life is not going to be good for a woman. She normally takes it the 5th to 7th week of her pregnancy. By this point, the baby has a heart, brain waves, arms and legs that are forming. And they want this to be available over the counter. Okay, assisted suicide and euthanasia, really what we should do with people as they get older, they're in pain, is to help them and comfort them, not try to end them. And as I did more research, it's important to not even just have a living will, but to really get it documented as to when you want to be diagnosed as being dead. And there's seven different ways to diagnose that, and that's on our website. If you go to personhoodfl.com and go to the resources page, I've got an end of life position paper, and there's a few different doctors that I went to that have researched it and have written from their perspective, their experience. So it's really, really helpful. Who is that?
Me.
Person begins with we the people, one heart at a time. And back then, Jordan was 15. And what's neat in Florida is that you can petition when you're younger than 18. You don't have to be 18. In some states you do. And this is from our Florida Constitution. We, the people of the state of Florida, being grateful to Almighty God for our constitutional liberty, among which are the right to enjoy and defend life. Did you know that was in our Constitution? Isn't that awesome? Oh, okay. Pope John Paul said the human being is to be respected and treated as a person from the moment of conception, and therefore from that same moment his rights as a person must be recognized, among which in the first place is the inviolable right of every innocent human being to life. Isn't that beautiful? So especially those words recognize. We don't want the government determining when we're a person and when we're not. That's when they get it wrong, and you have the Holocaust and you have the lynchings and you have abortion. We should be recognized that we're all created equal. And inviolable means it's a right that cannot be taken away by government. Okay? So, our mission, the God-given right of life to every human being at any stage of development shall be recognized and protected. Now, this is our current petition wording, okay? This provision shall be deemed to supersede any other inconsistent provisions. And that means that when we worked so hard to pass parental consent, and then it went to the Supreme Court of Florida, and they created a privacy right, that a child had this right to privacy so they didn't have to go to their parents. And so they're left totally vulnerable. And that's what it's talking about when it says this provision shall be deemed. It would supersede that right that is not constitutional. We the people speak for the weak. Okay, these are different ways you can get involved. Through prayer, absolutely. Number one. Data entry, we are building an army, so we need to keep track of the people that we teach so that when the time comes, we can share the word and say legislation's coming up or whatever. Phone calls, we make a lot of phone calls. Petition, which is fun. I love taking those petitions and sharing. Media marketing, sharing on Facebook is phenomenal. That's, I think, a good way to reach especially young people, is just sharing that way. and donate. And I used to say, oh, don't give, we're just going to get petitions, but traveling and printing the petitions and getting the kind of website background and stuff that you need, all that cost money. So we do take donations. And this, you have to be careful when you fill out the petition, or when you go petitioning, you need to watch and make sure people fill it out properly. They need to put their name just as it appears on their voter card. They need to put their residential address, and then the tendency is to put city, state, and zip, but we're all in Florida. So you put city, zip, and then county. And they can put their voter registration or their date of birth. Then they date and sign, and if they put their email address on the bottom, then we can keep track of them and educate them as the movement grows, and we can stay together. We also we establish hubs, which are just like a storefront or something where somebody will have a display and people will be able to come in and sign the petition, or maybe they've been petitioning and bring them in and get new ones, and it's just kind of a place in the community where people can come in and get petitions. And then we give them free advertising on our website. So this is Dr. Aponte. He's rescued 3 babies. Isn't that beautiful? I know, he's such a treasure. And we petition churches. That's really our main way, because as you educate the pastor and people in church, they're voting the way that they really should be when they are, when they have that biblical understanding. It's a lot of fun. We do radio interviews. If you know anyone that would want us to come and do a presentation or an interview, we're always happy to. This is Kitty Hadaway, and she had an abortion in 1973. And it's beautiful to watch her minister, because a lot of times pastors, they don't know what to say. They're kind of afraid of the feminist, and they don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but women in church are hurting. And so my pastor said he realized, he didn't want to address it either, but then he realized Jesus will heal them. So he brings it up so that they can be prayed for and can be healed. And so Kitty's wonderful because she has been healed, and she can go to these pastors and share her testimony. Then they say, come, speak at my church, and she does a lot of traveling. And we worship at our rallies, and petitioning at the polls, especially this is an election year, that's a great place to get petitions signed. They're coming to you, and they're all registered to vote. And young adult petitioning, this is our church youth group. And so they have gone petitioning several different times and ways, but one of them was at the polls. They took one of the polls and they petitioned there and had a blast. And then this is a homeschooling family that went to another poll, and that was a lot of fun. They had a great time. And then this is what we do on the college campuses. This is we call it Pillars of Personhood. It's a 10 by 10 pop-up tent, and then each panel has a different aspect to train. So we do the teaching, and then we set this up. We get permission beforehand, put it right smack on the middle of the campus. And then as the students are walking by, we ask them if they want to participate in a poll, and we ask them questions and listen to them. And it's really fun, because as you ask them leading questions, you help them think. And we see them change their minds. It's a wonderful experience. This is one of the panels. When are we human? And when are we persons? See, it's only when we have personhood that we as humans are protected. And we actually had on our last outreach in St. Lucie, this woman was standing beside me, and she said, "Where's the baby when it's 2 months?" And I, pointed to the little baby right here. And she was looking at it, and she's like, "I could never get an abortion." And her friend said, "Are you pregnant?" And she said, "Yes." And she was just staring at it. She's like, no, I won't get an abortion. So it was so beautiful. We realized just having the display that day, we had saved a baby. But then also these 2 pictures, we ask people if they can tell which baby was a product of rape. And people that are conceived in rape don't like to be called product of rapes. I shouldn't say that. You have to use the right terminology. They would prefer conceived in rape. When you talk to Rebecca, she doesn't like you to call her a product of rape. So I'm like, okay. And then nationality, it doesn't matter what our race is. We're all created equal. And then the Down syndrome, actually 90% of the Down syndrome babies that are diagnosed with Down syndrome are aborted now, 90%. And what's scary is every time I teach, at least one person says that, like I did an outreach Saturday, and this woman said when she was 7 months pregnant, they diagnosed her daughter with Down syndrome, and her husband was right there, and they are like, oh, you should have an abortion. He said, absolutely not. And she was born perfectly normal.
They did the same thing to one of my mom's best friends.
Is that right?
Yeah, she kept banging their babies.
Did she? Praise God.
Perfectly healthy baby.
Yeah, it's scary, isn't it? I don't know why. I don't know if it's just not accurate or what, but anyway, no matter what our age, no matter what our religion, no matter if we're older, we're all persons, aren't we? So should it be legal to kill a person based on their circumstances of conception? Okay, here's Rebecca. And spina bifida, have you seen this picture? This is where the little boy was being operated on his spine because he had spina bifida in the womb, and he grabbed the finger of the surgeon. Isn't that awesome? And then this is the same little boy when he's 10 years old. Isn't that incredible? And then I told you about the Down syndrome. In vitro, we're not against it in principle, if they want to do, have the baby conceived and developed and then put it in the tummy. What we're very concerned about, though, is if they put 10 of them in, say, hoping one survives and then kill off the weaker ones. If you do just one at a time like they do in Europe, they have a much better chance to survive, and then you're not killing any of them. So that's our position there. That makes sense, doesn't it? Okay, so killing born infants with disabilities. Peter Singer, who is our science czar, says that if perfectly normal toddlers were to be killed by their parents, it would not be as grave and evil as killing a person. So then they're talking about post-birth abortion, and that's getting creepy.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, okay, well, where do you slide? See, if you don't start at the moment of biological beginning, you're sliding. Does that make sense? That's where the point has to be, that we all come together and agree to really protect life. And then you've got the glow-in-the-dark humans, which I mentioned, the human-animal hybrids, the eugenics. In some cities now, there's more abortions than live births. And especially with the African Americans, I know, Martin Luther King's niece, Alveda King, told me that 25% of the African Americans have been exterminated from abortion. It's a very eugenic, racist type philosophy. And then you have your transhumanism, and who knows where we're going on that if we don't put some type of ethics in there. Okay, this is that one panel again, caution, and this is the other panel. And I don't like using this when I go to venues, like we were at a CareNet walk last Saturday. I didn't put it up when there's children, but this is the frame that the college students flock around. It is. And we have to talk about it to help people understand. I go to a lot of high schools, and I'll ask about, who's pro-choice and who's pro-life, and a lot of them will say that they're pro-choice, and then I go into Dred Scott, and that helps them see it. It's like, oh no, we've got to defend personhood for everybody. So Thomas Jefferson said, the care of human life and happiness and not their destruction is the first and only legitimate object of good government. Isn't that good? Deuteronomy 30:19 says, today I have given you the choice between life and death, between blessings and curses. Now I call on heaven and earth to witness the choice you make. Oh, that you would choose life so that you and your descendants might live. And this is Norma McCorvey. This is Jane Roe. Okay, Jane Roe's kind of like her name that she hides behind, but she was actually homeless and alcoholic. They had her sign the paperwork. She wasn't even in the court case. So now she's pro-life, and she travels the country sharing with people what her testimony is, and she regrets that she's responsible for that. But she says personhood efforts should be in all 50 states and everywhere life is held in high esteem. It's the best way to keep our unborn children from dying. Isn't that beautiful? So if you want more information, you can email me, brenda@personhoodfl.com. If you're interested in the history and knowing more about history from original documents and from especially a biblical law perspective, you can go to AmericanHeritageToday.com. Okay, thank you.